Have you ever poured your entire heart into a woman? Your time, your energy, your loyalty, even your self-respect. You believed that if you loved enough and sacrificed enough, she would value you and stay. Yet what came back was silence. Your messages slowed, her eyes grew colder, and in the end, she disappeared as if you had never existed. You lay awake, asking yourself what you did wrong. The truth is that you did not do anything wrong. You misunderstood how women work. Women do not love because of how much you do for them. They love because of how you make them feel. That feeling does not come from trying harder. It comes from standing firm, holding your ground, and requiring her to invest effort in order to have you. Most men do not know this. They give everything too soon, lose mystery and leverage, and are left behind without understanding why. This article is for you, the man who wants to stop being steered and start playing by his own rules. We will uncover 10 truths women do not want you to know. Why choosing her too soon kills attraction. Why respect begins only when you no longer need her, and how to keep your frame so she never forgets you. When you understand these, you will stop asking what you did wrong, and you will calmly decide who deserves to enter your life. If you want to keep exploring the truths that most men never hear, subscribe to Light of Wise Elders now, because what comes next may change. How you see women and how you see yourself. 1. Do not choose her too soon. A man's true attraction does not come from the number of flowers he gives or the compliments he offers. It comes from the value he places on himself. When you decide on a woman too early, putting her at the center of your world and behaving as if she already means everything, you take away the most precious factor in the emotional game, mystery and challenge. In a woman's mind, desire is not born from something easily obtained. It grows from what is rare, hard to reach, and worth the emotional effort to pursue. If she knows from the start that you are ready to give her everything without hesitation, she loses the reason to want it. Many men confuse showing genuine interest with handing over all their power. Choosing her too soon means giving her full control over the relationship before she has proven she deserves it. You may believe this shows sincerity, but to her, it sends another message. That you have no better options and have placed all your bets on her without asking for anything in return. Once she receives that message, attraction begins to fade. She may start to wonder why you are so certain about her so quickly. She may question what is wrong for you to be willing to lower your standards. The moment that doubt enters her mind, respect starts to erode. Your choice only has value when it is selective. It becomes an asset when it is not handed out freely. You do not have to play mind games or pretend to be distant, but you must make it clear that your attention is earned through her actions, not given by default. Watch how she communicates, how she treats other people, and how she reacts when she is not given absolute priority. These moments will tell you if she truly deserves the place you are considering for her. By keeping your standards high and resisting the urge to choose too soon, you reverse the dynamic. Instead of you proving that you are good enough for her, she starts questioning whether she is good enough for you. That role reversal creates a unique form of attraction, one that feels safe, yet challenging, and it pulls her in without her understanding why. Once you are in that position, you are no longer chasing her approval. You hold the emotional lead, and you become the man she thinks about even when you are not there. 2. Respect begins when you no longer need her. A woman might be impressed by your appearance and admire your success, but genuine respect only begins when she realizes that your emotions and sense of worth do not depend on her presence. When a man needs a woman in order to feel valuable, he has already placed himself in emotional chains. That need is not love, it is dependence, and women can sense it, even if you never speak a word. It appears in the way you seek her approval with your eyes, in how quickly you rush to meet her requests, and in the fear of losing her that slowly erodes your identity. Neediness is not about how often you text, call, or compliment her. It is the inner energy that says, I need you to like me so I can feel okay. This is the kind of energy that destroys respect faster than anything else, because it turns you from a source of strength into someone dependent on her validation. When you allow your emotions to be swayed by the smallest changes in her mood, you hand over complete control of the relationship. Once a woman feels she must manage your emotions, her admiration begins to die. And when admiration is gone, it is almost impossible to bring it back. The solution is not to become cold or pretend you do not care. It is to build yourself so completely from within that you remain whole without anyone's approval. You must know who you are, know what you want, and hold to those standards even when they are tested. When your value comes from your goals, principles, and self-control, you no longer need anyone to confirm your worth. This inner stability reveals itself in a steady voice, a focused gaze, and the ability to stand your ground during conflict. Women feel it instinctively, and the awareness that you are fine with or without them creates deep respect. When you no longer look to her for validation, you stop giving her the power to define your value. You decide for yourself who is worthy of entering your life. The irony is that, in that moment, when you do not need her to feel complete, she is likely to want you more, because you are one of the rare men who cannot be swayed by her charm alone. That is the point where respect begins. And once you have her respect, attraction becomes inevitable. 3. If you do not lead, she will replace you. In every relationship, there must be someone who sets the course. If you do not step into that role, she will eventually find someone who will. A woman might take the lead for a while when you are too passive, but it will not last. At first, she may handle the planning, make the decisions, and even feel a temporary sense of control. But over time, the responsibility of steering the relationship begins to drain her. When she has to decide where to go, how to resolve conflicts, and what direction the two of you are heading, her feelings start to cool. It begins with subtle disappointment, turns into boredom, and eventually leads to emotional withdrawal. Leadership does not mean controlling her or forcing her into your vision. It is about direction, initiative, and creating an environment where she feels secure enough to follow your lead. A man who truly leads is proactive. He makes decisions without hesitation, accepts responsibility for the results, and maintains a clear vision not only for himself, but for the relationship as a whole. He does not need to talk about being a leader. He shows it through consistent action. He knows when to listen with empathy, when to take decisive steps forward, and when to hold his ground even in the face of her disagreement. Women instinctively respect this certainty because it allows them to feel safe, to let go of constant vigilance, and to embrace their natural femininity without fear that everything will collapse without their intervention. If, on the other hand, you constantly defer to her, asking, "What do you want?" before you dare to express your own thoughts, you are placing yourself in the position of a follower, and women rarely remain attracted to followers for long. The moment she feels she has to lead, her feminine instincts are forced into a more masculine, protective mode. She begins operating from caution, control, and strategic thinking instead of openness, trust, and emotional connection. This role reversal is exhausting for her and slowly erodes her attraction toward you. Your very presence should speak without words. I know where we are going, and you can trust me to take us there. When she senses that clarity and direction, she no longer feels the need to constantly manage the relationship. This shift restores her trust and deepens her respect for you. It also creates a foundation where attraction is sustained naturally, because a woman who feels secure with her man does not have to question whether he is capable of leading her through both calm waters and storms. When you lead with purpose, you become the man she wants to follow, not because she has to, but because she chooses to. 4. When seduction becomes a tactic. A woman's intimacy is not always born from genuine emotion. Sometimes it is a deliberate strategy. You might believe she has suddenly become warmer, more affectionate, and willing to offer the closeness you have been waiting for. You may interpret it as a sign that feelings are being rekindled. Yet in many cases, it is simply her way of drawing you back under her influence. When she senses you are drifting away, this shift often happens right after you begin creating space, focusing on yourself, or refusing to comply with unreasonable demands. This tactic works because it taps directly into a man's natural desire to feel desired. The moment you respond without thinking, you signal that all the boundaries you work to set and all the distance you established can be erased by a moment of passion. In that instant, the balance of power returns to her side. The problem is not that intimacy itself is bad, but that it can be used to manipulate if you are not aware of the pattern. The key is to distinguish between closeness that grows from genuine investment and closeness that is offered only to restore her control. The disciplined approach is to observe without rushing in. Do not mistake a single passionate night or affectionate gesture for a lasting change in her intentions. Watch what follows. Does the warmth remain in the days and weeks after? Or does it fade as soon as she feels secure that you are back within reach? If it disappears quickly, you have your answer. A man with solid grounding does not allow fleeting passion to determine the course of the relationship. He looks for stability, for consistent patterns over time, and for evidence that intimacy comes from a sincere desire to connect rather than a calculated move to shift the balance of power. By holding to this standard, you send a clear message. Your attention and emotional openness are not for sale in exchange for a single moment of pleasure. They are earned through trust, respect, and genuine effort. When you maintain this mindset, you protect your self-worth and ensure that anyone who stays in your life is there for the right reasons. More importantly, you create an environment where intimacy is free from manipulation and can flourish naturally. Genuine closeness becomes a choice, not a tactic, and that difference will define the quality and longevity of the relationship. 5. The less you react, the more she obsesses. We live in an age where everything happens instantly. Messages arrive and replies are sent within seconds. A mood changes and the reaction comes just as fast. In this climate, a man who can control his reactions stands out. Women are accustomed to seeing men lose their balance with the smallest provocation. A cryptic comment, a vague message, or a bit of unnecessary drama to test how he will respond. Most men take the bait immediately, jumping into explanations, arguments, or emotional reassurance. But when you resist that pull and remain calm, you break the script she had prepared in her mind. When the expected script breaks, curiosity begins to grow. She starts asking herself why you are not reacting like other men. Instead of being the one chasing, explaining, or defending, you become the man she cannot easily predict. That unpredictability holds her attention. It is not about being cold or detached. It is about having the strength to choose your timing and your words rather than letting someone else's emotions dictate them. You do not need to win every minor exchange. Instead, you wait until your voice will have the most weight, and then you speak. Attraction is not fueled by a man who jumps to respond whenever she signals. It is often built in the space you allow to exist between her action and your reaction. That space makes her think, makes her guess, and sometimes makes her uneasy in a way that draws her closer. Human nature is to crave what we do not fully possess, and when you remain steady in the face of her attempts to provoke a response, you create a subtle tension that keeps her invested. This calm is not passive silence, it is active control. You are consciously choosing not to be pulled into every emotional current. You show that your state of mind is determined by your own inner compass, not by her shifting moods. Over time, this builds respect because she sees that you are not someone who can be steered with a few words or gestures. By mastering your reactions, you achieve two things at once. You protect your emotional energy from being drained by unnecessary conflicts, and you elevate yourself in her eyes as a man who is composed, intentional, and self-directed. That combination of mystery and stability is difficult to ignore, and even harder to replace. 6. I need space might be a test. When a woman says she needs space, it can sound harmless, even gentle, but it is not always about personal time or self-care. In many cases, it is a calculated move, a way to observe your reaction without directly confronting you. This often happens right after you shift the dynamic of the relationship. You have become less predictable, stopped indulging every request, or started focusing more on your own growth. Rather than address these changes openly, she steps back to see whether you will lose control and chase her. The most common mistake men make in this situation is to panic. They send repeated messages, make constant calls, apologize unnecessarily, and plead for her to change her mind. They believe they are saving the relationship, but in reality, they are sending a dangerous message that she is the center of their world and they cannot be okay without her. Once this is revealed, the balance of power tips entirely in her favor. She now knows that your emotional stability is tied to her presence, and she can use this knowledge, consciously or unconsciously, to guide the relationship on her terms. A grounded man responds differently. He respects her decision to take space, but does not let it derail his own path. He continues with his life, pursues his goals, and invests in his personal growth. He does not treat this time apart as a period of waiting. He treats it as an opportunity to strengthen himself. This sends a completely different message, that while he values her, his sense of self is not dependent on her closeness. when the space lasts longer than she expected and she sees that you are not only fine, but perhaps even thriving, her curiosity is triggered. She begins to question what she may have stepped away from. If she chooses to return, it will be because she truly wants to, not because you begged or pressured her to come back. The key is to remain steady and consistent in your own life, regardless of her movements. By doing so, you protect your self-respect, preserve your frame, and ensure that any reconnection is built on mutual choice rather than desperation. In the long run, this makes the relationship healthier, because it is grounded in genuine desire rather than a cycle of push and pull. 7. Intimacy must be earned. Many men mistakenly believe that if they spend enough time with a woman, treat her well, and show consistent care, intimacy, both physical and emotional, will naturally follow. But true intimacy is never something automatically given. It is reserved for the man she feels safe with, the man she respects, and the man she believes is worthy of the most unguarded parts of herself. To reach that place, you must earn it. You cannot demand it. A woman lives in a world where protecting her emotions is often necessary for survival. Each painful breakup, each broken promise, and each moment of being taken advantage of adds another layer to the emotional armor she wears. Real intimacy is not unlocked by a handful of dates, a few thoughtful gifts, or charming words. It comes when you prove, through consistency, that you remain steady and dependable even when she is not at her most pleasant, even when she tests your boundaries or challenges your patience. The problem is that many men try to bypass this process. They attempt to fast-track closeness by showering her with gifts, pushing romance too quickly, or making themselves overly available from the start. These gestures might win her politeness or surface-level affection, but they rarely break through to the deeper, authentic connection she keeps guarded. At best, you interact with her social mask, not the genuine person underneath. To move past that outer shell, you must demonstrate that your calm and composure are not shaken by her mood swings or emotional storms. Show that you can hold your ground without becoming defensive or reactive, and that your principles remain intact even under pressure. Over time, this steadiness communicates safety. When she feels safe enough to lower her guard, intimacy begins to emerge naturally, without being forced. True intimacy is a byproduct of safety and respect, not a reward for superficial effort. The irony is that the less you chase it, the more likely it is to appear. When you treat intimacy as a privilege she chooses to offer, rather than something you are entitled to, you create a space she wants to return to again and again. In that space, genuine connection has room to grow, and both partners can experience closeness without the shadow of manipulation or pressure. 8. She gives the lead only to a man she respects. Many men assume that if they are kind, agreeable, and eager to please, a woman will respect them and allow them to lead the relationship. In reality, the opposite is true. Women do not hand over the lead to a man who simply tries to make them happy at all costs. They give that role to a man they genuinely respect. Respect does not come from passivity or compliance. It comes from inner strength, stability, and the ability to stand firm in your values, even when doing so does not please her in the moment. A respected man has a clear vision for his life and does not seek permission to follow it. He listens when needed, but he is not swayed by fleeting emotions or temporary moods. He sets boundaries and enforces them, not with aggression, but with quiet, unwavering resolve. Women sense this at a deep, instinctive level. Around a man like this, they feel safe to relax, to let down their guard, and to embrace their femininity without the constant need to control every situation. This kind of following is entirely voluntary, born from trust rather than obligation. By contrast, if you lack direction, if you frequently abandon your plans under emotional pressure, or if you change your decisions to avoid conflict, she will feel compelled to step into the leadership role. At first, she may not resist, but over time, the weight of always being the one to steer will exhaust her, erode her trust, and diminish her attraction. Her natural instinct is not to lead indefinitely. She wants the peace of knowing that her partner can guide them through both calm moments and turbulent challenges. Leadership is not something you request or demand. It is something you demonstrate when your words align with your actions, when you maintain composure in difficult situations, and when you refuse to compromise on your core principles. You naturally become the man she is willing to follow. Once she grants you that trust, the relationship enters a different phase. One where the struggle for control fades and both partners move forward with the same vision and shared confidence. 9. Predictable means replaceable. A man should be consistent in his principles and values, but being so predictable in behavior that you become repetitive is one of the fastest ways to kill attraction. At first, a woman might appreciate that you are always available, always quick to respond, and always ready to meet her needs. Over time, however, when she can anticipate your every move, curiosity fades. Curiosity is what fuels desire, and when it is gone, attraction begins to wither. If she knows exactly what you will say, how you will act, and how you will react, you stop being a challenge and become a routine. Routines are easy to replace. A woman wants to be certain about the kind of man you are. She needs to know you have a clear direction, stable emotions, and a solid character. But she does not want to have complete certainty over your every action. If she can influence you entirely with a few messages, a certain tone, or a single look, she will eventually lose interest. An element of unpredictability keeps her emotionally invested. This is not about playing games or creating unnecessary anxiety. It is about maintaining independence and a life that is not fully dictated by the relationship. Sometimes this means you spend time apart to focus on personal projects. Sometimes it means surprising her with a change of plan or taking her somewhere unexpected. Sometimes it means saying no when it matters, even if she was expecting you to agree. These moments of unpredictability remind her that you are a man with your own priorities, choices, and boundaries. And the foundation of this is a life that remains rich and meaningful outside of the relationship. When she sees that your world does not revolve entirely around her, that you have goals, commitments, and passions she cannot fully control, you become harder to replace. She knows she cannot simply take your attention for granted. She must continue to invest in the relationship to maintain her place in your life. The unwritten rule is simple. The more predictable you are, the faster attraction fades. The more you preserve a sense of independence and an occasional element of surprise, the more she will value staying connected to you. A man who keeps her engaged without sacrificing his core stability is a man. She will think twice about ever letting go. 10. Love fades when you lose your frame. You can be successful, attractive, generous, and loyal. But if you lose your frame, all those strengths will slowly lose their impact. Frame is the way you keep yourself at the center of your own life. It means that your values, principles, and goals do not change just because someone else's emotions shift. Women will test this frame, sometimes without even realizing it, to see whether you truly have the stability you project. If every time she becomes upset, distant, or confrontational, you immediately adjust your behavior, offer unconditional apologies, or give in far beyond reason, you show her that you are easily moved. Losing your frame does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens through a series of small concessions. Each time you set aside a principle to avoid conflict, each time you bend your standards to fit her temporary mood, you chip away at the foundation that attracted her in the first place. She may have been drawn to your decisiveness and consistency, but over time she begins to see a man who reshapes himself to match the emotions of others. When respect fades, love quickly follows. Maintaining your frame does not mean ignoring her needs or becoming rigid. It means you listen, but you do not allow short-term emotions, yours or hers, to dictate the long-term direction of your life. When tension rises, you remain calm. When she tries to pull you into an emotional storm, you breathe steadily and speak with clarity. When pressure mounts, you stand upright and act according to your values, not out of fear of losing her. A man who keeps his frame does not need to declare that he is in charge. His presence, his composure, and the consistency of his actions speak for him. This stability reassures her on a deep level. It tells her that no matter what challenges come, you will not lose yourself in the process, and that assurance allows attraction and love to endure. When you protect your frame, you protect the essence of who you are. That essence is what made her choose you in the first place. Lose it, and you risk losing the relationship. Keep it, and you not only maintain her respect, you give the relationship the stability it needs to thrive for years to come. Conclusion: take back your power. You have just gone through 10 principles that most men are never taught. Each principle is a piece of a larger picture. A relationship that is strong, lasting, and filled with attraction is not built on blind submission or a constant effort to please. It is built on self-mastery, clear standards, and the ability to hold your ground even when emotions are tested. From refusing to choose her too soon, to earning respect by not needing her, to leading instead of being led, to recognizing when seduction is a tactic, to controlling your reactions, to treating space as a potential test, to earning intimacy, to building the respect that makes her want to follow, to keeping an edge of unpredictability, and finally to protecting your frame. Each of these principles works together to create the image of a man a woman not only wants to be with, but truly respects. The common thread running through all of them is simple. You remain the center of your own life. You live by your values and your goals, and anyone who enters your world must align with your path rather than pull you off course. You do not ask for permission to be yourself, and you do not lose your identity to keep someone else. You are not interested in power games, but you also never hand over your power for free. In a world where most men are willing to trade away their identity for love or approval, the man who keeps his sense of self becomes rare and valuable. When you start applying these principles, you will not only change the way women see you, you will also change the way you see yourself. You will stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "Who is truly worthy of me?" That shift in mindset changes everything, because when the question changes, the entire game changes. So let this be your turning point. From this moment, decide to stand in your own frame, hold your standards, and live by your own vision. The right woman will not only accept that, she will be drawn to it, because deep down, respect and attraction always follow strength. That is where we will end today's video. If what you have heard today resonated with you, please like and share this video, and do not forget to subscribe to Light of Wise Elders to receive more insights like these as soon as they are released. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.